Hey everyone, welcome back to the Natural State of Wrestling, episode number 7. My name is Irvin.
This is Justin Meeks, and we have Angel Camacho with us today.
How
Yeah,
are you guys?
pretty good, Angel, man. I feel so blessed to be able to meet you on Sunday and learn from you. I got to introduce you. I'm in Arkansas, at least currently. I'm your personal ring announcer.
Yeah,
Uh, so that was pretty cool to experience, man. As someone that's never done anything like this before, and as someone that's been a fan for since I was a kid, getting to experience that, it definitely didn't feel. It felt like way even more exciting than I thought it was gonna feel. If that makes sense.
right, right. No, that makes a lot of sense. That's kind of how it is when you first starting out with wrestling. It's an excitement. So
Yeah, you just kind of hear you hear all these things, specifically, taking advice from people. I'm not gonna say it's new to me because I do take advice from people, but taking advice from people like I barely meeting for the first time. I know that there's folks in the back that have so much experience already in this, and
yeah,
that such a wealth of knowledge, and it'd be crazy not to listen to them, especially specifically like this is my first show, right? It's the first time
right.
that I'm there. Was this your first time in Arkansas, by the way, wrestling here?
No,
The night
I
before?
wrestled in Arkansas before, for DCW. I did a couple shows for them. Other than that, I do BIW, with his Bayou Independent. They do shows in Fountain Hill, Arkansas.
You know what's crazy? Like I told you that I'm a big fan. I've been following wrestling for a while. I've only gone to the shows in Northwest Arkansas that are local. Like I'm barely right now discovering that there's shows, like what you mentioned. There's other
Yeah,
shows around the entire state in places that I've never visited, like the most rural places of Arkansas.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
and I mean, there's places that like sometimes people of color feel a little bit concerned of going to. So like,
yeah.
just kind of having a reason or an excuse to go to these places and just kind of experience them and see the fans there. For you, I'm guessing must be kind of crazy, right? Because you're from Texas, you are from Puerto Rican descent, you're Latino yourself, you're a brown man. How has your experiences been like going to these places in Arkansas that you don't see a lot of people that look like us?
Um, Honestly, man, like I told you, I've done Fountain Hill and then Mulberry, I believe it is. Mulberry
Yeah.
is where I did W. Um, Not gonna lie, when I first went for the first time, I was a little worried. And
Yeah.
ooh, this little small town. You look into the crowd, honest God, there was like really no colored people there. Um, a matter of fact, I had a fan, which was a kid, tell me go back to Mexico, and I had to explain to the kid, like, look, kid,
Oh,
you know,
man.
uh, we're not all the same. Uh,
Yeah.
but believe it or not, though, it wasn't. I didn't have a bad experience. They were all very well, caring, welcoming. You know, I did my thing of the hill. They booed me, and after the show, they all come up to me, "Oh man, you're awesome," and all this other stuff. So it's not like I had a bad experience. So I think I've been blessed where I haven't been put in any situations like that. So
Fun fact, I got married in Mulberry because it's like the town in between where my wife is from and where I'm from,
uh-huh.
Fort Smith and Springdale. And I've been to those wrestling shows, the ones in Mulberry that are ran by Down South Wrestling,
Uh-huh.
our friend Dwayne down there.
Right.
And the fans are great. They're definitely, you could tell that it's a whole other place in the state, very different, not that diverse at all. And
Yeah.
and they do the show at like the fairgrounds, in like a little, not a little, but it's a good venue for the fairgrounds,
Right,
and
right. And
great.
that's who I wrestled for, was Dwayne.
Yeah, he's a good dude. Dwayne actually was the first person I collabed with him on doing an event here in Springdale, a wrestling event last year when we brought in Super Crazy,
Oh,
here in Springdale. And yeah, he's a good dude. But I just wanted to mention that because you had a crazy experience before you came to Springdale, right? You were telling me.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And I guess it was something, I forgot what it was. It was like Point Bluff, Arkansas, or something like that.
Oh, Pine Bluff.
Pine Bluff?
There we go, Pine Bluff. And so we pull up. I leave my Fountain Hill show. I told my girlfriend, hey, we gotta at least get 2 hours in. Well, we got in about an hour, and she was already tired. So we end up getting a hotel slash motel, whatever. We check in, we go to park. As I'm raising the tailgate in the van, and my kids are opening up the sliding doors, she starts hearing gunshots. Well, I didn't hear them right away. She was like, "Did you hear that?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" So as I'm going through the trunk, I start hearing the gunshots myself, and then it just starts getting louder, and then it just starts going like it goes from like 1 to 2 shots to like multiple shots at once. And
Oh
next
my
thing I
gosh.
know, like I'm hearing multiple shots, and then I hear a big like a bullet hitting a pole or something. And no joke, it sounded like it was right by my ear.
Oh
Yeah.
wow.
So I end up like kind of like telling my kids to get down in the van, and then I kind of like squatted down next to my van and stuff. And shortly after that, here comes this like Ford Escape or something like that come flying past us.
Wow.
Needless to say, my kids ran into the room barefooted, nothing. They were scared. They come out, and I'm laughing at about it now, but it was
Yeah.
definitely a scary situation.
How old are your kids?
My oldest is 14, and then I have a 10, a 9, and a 7-year-old.
Oh wow. So yeah, they're definitely old enough to be aware of what was going down. That's scary, man.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, I'm laughing and smiling about it now, but at that moment, it.
Yeah.
Ooh, we all ran into the room. When we first ran into the room, the tailgate was still open, the doors were still open. Like I didn't even care about that. I just cared about getting everybody in the room and stuff like that. But yeah, that was it. And then we woke up the next morning and got out of there as quickly as we possibly could.
That's good. Do you try your
Yeah.
best to travel with your kids all the time?
So whenever I'm doing like long distance traveling, um, I take my family so that way me and my girlfriend can share the driving or whatever. And then my kids love watching me wrestle anyway, so that's a plus side. The problem is it can get a little expensive
I
to
bet.
to the point
Yeah.
where I come out negative, or I
Mm.
come out. I barely 9 out of 10 times I'm bringing my whole family. I'm in a negative, so I try to avoid bringing them as much as I can, just so I can come back with some money.
Mm. Talking about kids, that one kid in the crowd, man, that was this past Sunday that was like cussing everybody out. Well, I think there was a good amount of kids that were just really riled up.
Mm.
I told you about that one kid that came up to me after the show, and he was like, I don't like your client. Tell him that like if I see him, I'm gonna beat him up. This kid was like 6 years old, and and I was like, oh, he's still back there. I can take you back there if you want, so you can tell him to his face. And he was like, no, 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 I gotta leave. Like I'm my parents are telling me that I need to go. But it's crazy to what extent, you as I guess you can call yourself a heel, a bad guy, the effect that people like you and performers like you have on these kids that witness the show. Have you had a lot of experiences like that with kids throughout the years, that just are scared of you or like want to fight you?
Oh, most definitely. All the time. I mean, I tell kids all the time, like I tell kids all the time, like, look, kids can get it too. Is what I tell them all the time. I'll be going off at someone, and then I'll walk by and some kid is staring at me and just pointing and stuff, and I'll be like, and I'll tell the kids, I'm like, hey, you can get it too, kid. Just because you're obviously, I'm not gonna hit a child, but this.
Right.
And there's a lot of times that these kids after the show, their parents will bring them up to be like, "Oh man, you want to shake his hand?" And they'll look at me like, "No, I'm good." Like with big open eyes, like they're scared and stuff like that. So
Yeah, that was definitely interesting for me because I've never I've never had that kind of feedback from kids where like they'll come up, usually if they come up to me like because of like community work and stuff, they'll like want to take a picture or just want to say something nice. I've just never had anybody come up to me and look like they were disappointed or if they were like mad at me before. This kid came and this other kid just came up to me and he was just like he didn't say anything. He was just like, I'm not gonna talk to you. And he shook his head like this. And I was like, oh, I forgot that I'm doing this, and obviously they're gonna see me this way because of
yeah,
because of what I do or who I'm associated with. But it was just a different experience, man, because I'm not used to it. I'm not used to that. But I think it's one of those things where you have to develop thick skin and you know what role you're playing, and what kind of character you're portraying, and just go along with it, you know.
Uh, kids kids are very notorious for hating you. You know what I mean? Especially me. Kids hate me all the time. And now you'll get your few kids that their parents are like, oh, he's not really a mean guy, blah blah blah, and then they'll come up and say, hey, but I've had kids that be like, we don't like you, you're mean, blah blah this and whatever. And believe it or not, I've had adults do the same thing. You
Really.
would think
Wow.
adults, and I've had adults come through like, we don't like you, you're mean, don't talk to us, and blah blah and all this other stuff. So, I mean, it comes from kids and it comes from adults, but majority of the time it's the kids.
Do you
Well,
always play a heel, or do you sometimes play a face, or which do you prefer?
So I play face, I play heel too. Like the show I have today, actually, I'm actually a face. Um, but I'm a heel more than I am a face. I've been doing this 13 years now, and 13 years I've been heel more than I've been a face.
Do you like it more, or is it just kind of happenstance that you're a heel more?
Um, Overall, I do like being a heel more. Um, because I'm about to do what's called breaking kayfabe for a second, but I'm a real genuinely I'm a real nice guy, real big teddy bear is what I tell a lot of people. So when I get to wrestling, I get to be a heel. We always say we get to go out there and do what we really want to do in real life, but we can't, and that's
Hmm.
be mean and yell at people and stuff like that. Um, so being a heel comes natural to me.
and going back to the kids can get it kind of thing. Granny Hulkster almost got it too on Sunday, man. Granny Hulkster is notorious for wanting to just fight all the bad guys at all the local shows here in Northwest Arkansas. And she came up to me too after the show, and she was like, I can, I'm not afraid of your guy. I'm not scared of your guy. And I'm like, Granny, are you being serious? I can't tell if Granny Hulkster is being serious or not. And for those that don't know, Granny Hulkster is a avid pro wrestling fan who goes to all the shows here locally. She wears like a Hulk Hogan type of shirt, but instead of Hulkster, it says Granny Hulkster on it, and it's like signed by a bunch of different wrestlers. And she's very notorious for going to all these different shows. Um, and I think she's gonna be like an ongoing character that you're gonna have to cross every time you come to Arkansas, Angel. I think she's gonna be.
Yeah, no, believe it or not. So when I did DCW for Dwayne, that's when I first met her,
Yeah.
and pretty much same thing. You know what I mean? Going off, and there's been plenty of times that me and her just jaw jack back and forth, back and forth. Um, but then after the show, she's like, "I love you. You're so awesome. I got to give you a hard time and stuff like that." But yeah, she's honestly she's the definition of a super fan, a fan that you really do want. You know what I mean? Because she gets rowdy, and then it helps get the other people rowdy as well. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Those are the kind of fans you want. You know?
And she'll be on the show in the next few weeks because I think she has a lot to say. I think it'd be interesting just to kind of, figure out where she became a fan,
Hmm.
because she's been a fan for like longer than most of us have been alive. I think most of us have been alive. Uh,
Yeah.
oh, I think it'd be good to get that perspective from her. So you, Angel, like, when did you start becoming a fan, man? Like, what was the first type of wrestling that you were watching? Was it stuff here in the U.S.? Was it Puerto Rican stuff? How did you start getting involved?
Um, the first wrestling that I watched growing up was WWE. Now, my thing about wrestling is I don't have the I wanted to be a wrestler my whole life, you know, story. Um, because I watched it as a kid, right? But I wasn't like, oh man, this is awesome. This is what I want to do. I watched it just like you watch Saturday night or Saturday morning cartoons and stuff like that. It was just some on TV that I watched. Um, I really became a fan, honestly, when I started wrestling. Like I said, I watched it. I've always been a semi fan, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
I'm not like a diehard. I was never a diehard fan, but we've been just a fan, you know. But the decision I made the day I decided to start wrestling, um, the more and more I did it, the more and more I fell in love with it. So, I've always been an athlete. I've always played basketball, football, baseball, soccer, like anything you can think of. I played growing up. I've always been an athlete growing up my whole life and stuff like that. So, I seen this as a something new to try. a new sport to try, and at the time when I first started, I was still playing semi-pro football. So it was kind of like trying to balance everything in between on top of playing like flag football and then playing softball and stuff like that. Um so but like the more and more I did it, the more and more I fell in love with it. So that's just that's you know what I mean? It kind of came and the love for it came as I was training.
And what are
What
some of
led?
the go ahead, Justin.
Uh, I was what? So what led you to take it from just being somebody watching it on TV to deciding, hey, I'm going to do this. I'm going to jump in a ring and see what happens. How did you come to that?
So at the time I was working at McDonald's and one of my best friends was the manager, and we were just one day we were sitting in the office just hanging out and talking and stuff, and that's when he tells me that, man, you know what I really want to try, and I'm like, what's that, man? Because I mean, like wrestling. I was like wrestling. He's like, yeah, like WWE pro wrestling. I was like, for real? And he's like, yeah, man, I kind of want to give it a try and see, see how what it's about and stuff. And there, like, we got silent for like a minute or two, and I was like, let's try it. Like, what's it gonna hurt? We don't like it and decide this ain't for us. So we at that point we started looking for schools online and stuff like that, and then we found a school, and they sent us over to a different school, and then from that point on, it was just training and training, and we did our tryout and stuff like that, and it's crazy because it was his idea, but he ended up quitting. He never finished training. He ended up quitting, and I just kept going.
Mm. And what are some of the aspects that you like from being a pro wrestler? Like what actually part of the job draws your attention the most and makes you most like happy to do?
The crowd interaction, man. Which is crazy because as a kid, I was a real shy kid. I kept to myself. I didn't hang out with people. It was like school, come home, and then I stayed in my room playing with my toys or playing video games. I was real shy. I didn't talk to people, and then even playing sports, still the same way, And then wrestling. Then I started wrestling, and it kind of opened me up. And then when I went out there and had these people booing me and cheering me, I kind of realized like this crowd interaction stuff. Like I like it, I love it. Like it's cool to be able to sit there and interact with people, whether it's getting them to boo you or getting them to cheer you or giving people high fives or telling people, get out my face and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely the crowd interaction.
And you're part of a family, of a wrestling family called the Camacho family, which y'all like my long lost cousins from a different area, because
Yeah,
you're not, I don't think anybody in the family is Mexican. Maybe Emmy is of
Emmy.
Mexican
Yeah,
descent.
Emmy.
But everybody else is Puerto Rican, right?
Yes.
For
So
those
we're called UFC, which stands for United Familia Camacho. You got me, my brother Ocho, and then my sister Emmy, and then you got my cousins Anik and Zarek. So I was Camacho first because I started training '09, and then Anik and Zarek moved from Puerto Rico, started training at DFW All Pro in Texas, and then that's when we started UFC, and then from there on it's Ocho. Then Ocho started wrestling, and then Emmy.
And how did y'all make the? I can see how y'all got all the other folks, like that are Puerto Rican to join the group. But how did y'all make the decision for Emmy to join? Being like she's not Puerto Rican, she's of Mexican descent. How did y'all make that decision, or how did that look like?
Emmy made that decision on her own.
Oh, okay.
Oh, she came up to Onyx and told Onyx she wanted to be part of the Camachos or whatever, and we kind of just went from there. And we were like, and she was serious about it, pretty adamant about it too. So we were like, okay, and then that's just how it happened.
I got to experience firsthand, Emmy, got to introduce myself and see her wrestle and stuff. Like I just see a lot of potential in her. Like I just feel like she has got the look and the way she carries herself and stuff. Like I just feel like she's destined for success. Is that something that y'all ever talk about or anything like that?
Yeah, all the time. We all talk about that all the time. Um, Emmy is just Emmy just graduated from training.
Oh, really?
Uh, she's probably been out a year maybe now,
Okay.
if that. I'm telling you, once she finished training, like she blew up. She's been traveling all over the place, going everywhere. You know, um, and then Onyx and Zarek, they wrestle all over Texas too. Matter of fact, Onyx and Zarek just wrestled in Puerto Rico, I think last month or the month before. So then I do all my traveling. I go to Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, and all of Texas, stuff like that. I want to travel more. I want to get more places. Um, it was uh, it was playing football when I first started. It was a little rough because football games were on Saturdays. But I started taking my wrestling more serious within the last 3-4 years, and since then I've blown up. I wrestle every weekend, anywhere from 3 to 4 times a week. You know, so on top of holding a real job and taking care of my family.
So there's and nothing's been confirmed yet, but there's rumors that more Camachos might be making their way to Arkansas soon.
Yeah,
Based on what I hear through the grapevine. I think it'd be cool, to just expose, more. There's a lot of Puerto Ricans here in Northwest Arkansas,
okay.
and but I feel like there isn't a sense of community. Like there isn't a place where they can kind of, come together and just enjoy themselves. And I feel like this pro wrestling company, Diamond State Wrestling, can be a place for them to do, if they see all the other Camachos there too, that, hopefully bring their Puerto Rican flags and show their Puerto Rican pride, because Puerto Ricans tend to be very prideful of, their flag and where they come
Yep.
from. I always, whenever I see a Puerto Rican like out and on the road, a lot of the times, they have that flag, the little flag in the
Yeah.
front.
Yep. I have two of them, man. I got the red, white, and blue. Have I have a black and white one on my front windows of my car. So
I
Nice.
noticed on your gear that like it's really detailed and it's like it really like expresses your Puerto Rican pride. Like who does your gear? Because it's really, really well done.
so I've had gear made by multiple people. That gear you're specifically talking about was made by Aces. Um, his name is Ray Ace. Ray Ace. I can't remember his last name, but he made my boots as well. He lives in Laredo in Texas, very well known. He does just about everyone's boots and gear and stuff. Like really good guy. The gear, like this is the first time I've ever got gear made from him, and when I got it, I was speechless because the attention to detail, and all that, and the way everything just meshed together. I was speechless because that gear is probably the best gear I've ever had. So needless to say, that's where I'll be going from now on.
Yeah,
Uh, he did all that by hand. You know what I mean? So
that's awesome.
yep.
So how would overall would you summarize your experience coming here to Springdale? You obviously weren't in a match this time. You just beat up like what, 15 security guards at the same time.
It seemed like that, right? It seemed like that. Man, it was good for it being a first time show. It was a nice packed house. Um, Backstory: me and Xander go to like brother. Yeah, I've known Xander since God knows for a long time now, and when he used to go by Dusty Gold, I've known Xander for a long time. That's like my brother. Like, so when he told me he was going to start running a promotion, I was in it from the jump. He didn't even have to say much. There's not much that I wouldn't do for Xander. So just being out, being able to get there, and then coming out, and the crowd reaction, and it's funny because when the music played, some of the people already knew who I was because I heard people like "oh," and then I come out and they're booing me and just reacting to everything. So it was great,
Well,
and it's nice because Xander is bringing a different type of wrestling to Arkansas. Xander says it over and over and over. He has a little bit of wrestling for everyone, whether you like cruiserweight wrestling, whether you like heavyweight wrestling or women's wrestling or even super heavyweight wrestling, whether you like seeing two big guys in there fighting back and forth like big horses. You know what I mean? He's bringing everything for everyone, a little bit of everything for everyone. So I feel like given time, it's going to be the best promotion in Arkansas. because he has a great mind for wrestling. He knows what direction he wants to go in, and he knows what he wants to do with the company. So
Yeah, he definitely does have like a vision for it. He knows what he wants to do because I give him a lot of feedback, and he does take a lot of like my suggestions and stuff. But then there's times where he's like, "But I have a mindset on this. Like we're gonna do this and this," and I'm like, "Okay, I respect that. As long as you have like a vision, even if we don't agree on something, and he knows what he wants and he thinks it's gonna be successful, then I'm all on board because I appreciate like the passion that he has and how
yeah,
strict he's very strict with everything he does. Like not only his training, his wrestling matches, and just how he moves forward. So I definitely appreciate that. And going back to what you said about, people going, "Ooh," when you came out, I haven't even mentioned your name yet before
hmm,
people started having a reaction. I think they once I said the Puerto Rican Juggernaut,
yeah.
that when I saw Granny Hulkster pop up, and then the folks start going, "Oh," so even with the little number of appearances you've had in Arkansas so far, I mean,
Yeah.
it's like you're already making an impact.
Yep. Man, I one of my main focuses when I wrestle is to make an impact, to leave an impression wherever I'm at. You know what I mean? Whether I never return to that place again, or if I make more appearances in whatever area or whatever state or whatever I'm in, I do my best to leave an impact because I want people to remember who I am. And 9 out of 10 times I do. 9 out of 10 times I leave a good impression. Most promoters bring me back. I don't think I've had one, maybe one or two that didn't like, hey, we don't want you back. 9 out of 10 times I'm always back. The fans react to me. I'm constantly getting positive feedback from fans, whether they hate me or love me. The one thing they can always say is that whenever I go out there, I'm not putting 100% into it. And I'm not entertaining, and I'm not doing what I do best because wrestling is what I do best, and that's what I love. So they can't say I'm not going out there and showing out because I most definitely do. So
And one thing I appreciated from the show was that a lot of the wrestlers that were there were still watching the show, and
yeah,
we're providing feedback to younger, less experienced wrestlers, the good and the bad, just so they can become better. How
yeah.
important is that to you to do that to people? Like, is that something that you think about all the time when you're at shows? Like, I want to provide and help, this person who may have less experience than me.
Oh man, that's one thing I love to do. Right, one thing I do, and I try my best. If people want the advice or want tips and stuff like that, I'm all about it because I'm so passionate about my wrestling that I want to make sure that it's good for years to come. Um, One thing I don't like is seeing people go out there and playing wrestler because that's what they wanted to do, but didn't have the proper training, and they're just out there and pretty much making a mockery of the sport that I love. So I'm constantly like, if people want it, some people ask me, "Hey, what you think?" If I seen, I don't always watch Raw matches, but if I watch it, I'll tell them, the good, the bad, and stuff like that. What they need to work on because I'm not perfect, right? I've been doing it 13 years, but there's things that I can do to improve. But I'm all about helping the younger guys that ain't been around longer to help them get better. Because I want everyone to succeed in this business, whether you're a manager, whether you're a wrestler, ring announcer, whatever it is. I want everyone to succeed. I want to be able to be older and watch TV and see wrestler A and B on WWE, and I can be like, man, I was on shows with that guy. I helped him out a little bit. I gave him some tips, and so I'm glad to see him. I'm glad to see that he made it.
Talking about that a little bit, has there been anyone that stood out that has done that for you, that kind of passed that institutional knowledge down to you, that's helped you out in your career, or even if not, like who inspires you to be a better wrestler? Like who are some of your inspirations?
In the indie scenes, you have, well, I guess he's not really, well, yeah, he does, but one of the guys that I watch a lot is Shane Taylor. You know, Ring of Honor, AEW. That man is money. He is gold. He's really good at what he does. Face expression. He's a brawler. and he's not afraid to tell people, and he's not afraid to go off on fans and stuff like that. This is what he does. This is who he is. I watch that guy all the time, and I'm like, man, that guy is really good. You know, I've talked to Shane. I've gotten advice from him. Um, Michael Tarver's another one.
Mm.
Michael Tarver was trained by the same guy I was trained in Ohio. You know, I don't know if you know who Michael Tarver is, but he was from the Nexus
Yeah.
back in the day. But me and Michael Tarver are really good friends. But he's another one that I used to watch a lot and get advice from too. So
And is he currently still active in the indie scene?
I don't know if he's completely active. I think he'll take a booking here and there if someone message him, depending on the show.
Yeah.
But right now he's focusing on his rapping, his
Okay.
music, focusing on his music career.
Do you still watch wrestling like on TV?
I watch NXT. That's about the only thing I really watch, to be honest with you. But I don't really watch WWE and stuff like that. But NXT, because I have Peacock and stuff, so me and my son be laying in bed or sitting on the couch watching NXT. So
Okay. The reason why I ask is because a lot of the wrestlers that I talk to, for the most part, they don't watch it, or they say they don't watch it. I don't know if they do or not.
I
Uh,
honestly, a lot of wrestlers don't.
mm,
You know, because growing up especially if you're a huge wrestling fan, right? Growing up as a wrestling fan, you're like, oh man, that's awesome. Oh man, you can enjoy it, right? You get a sense of enjoyment watching. You get excited because you're watching it. But then when you become a wrestler and then you watch it, rather than enjoying it and just enjoying the match and the show, now you're critiquing everything. You know what I mean? Oh, he could have did this better. Oh, he could have did that better. You know, so it's a little harder to watch it once you start wrestling because rather than enjoying it, you sit there and you start critiquing stuff, and that kind of takes the fun out of everything.
That's why my wife doesn't watch Law and Order with me.
No.
The lawyers. Makes sense.
I make it no fun.
So, what are some of the goals that you have for yourself in wrestling? Like, what do you want to accomplish?
Man, honestly, man, I don't. So I had goals of maybe making it to WWE or Japan, or AEW stuff like that. And I'm not saying that those goals are gone, right? But I've been doing this 13 years. My body has taken quite of a beating. I really, my goal is to make 20 years, right? I'm 13. I got 13 in right now. I'm hoping to make them 20 years. But when it comes to trying to make it to the big time, yes, I would love to go to WWE. I would love to do AEW. I really would love to do Japan, right? Because I think I would fit really good in there. And I've had people tell me, dude, you'd fit real good in Japan. But at the same time, I have 4 kids I have to raise, and they're all still young. So my priority will always be children, making sure that they're taken care of.
Yeah.
So rest kind of, I won't say it takes a back seat because, like I said, even with working a full time job, I'm still wrestling at least 3 to 4 times a week. You know,
Mm.
minimum two, max at least 4 times a week. One time I wrestled 7 matches in one weekend. You know, so needless to say, I was exhausted at the end of it. But this is what I love to do, right? So, if something was to come out of it, cool. And if not, I want to be able to say that I at least traveled to different states, maybe even Puerto Rico, maybe even like Panama or England. You know, some overseas. I like to say that by the time I hang it up, I'm like, I didn't make it big in the WWE and stuff like that, but in the independent scene, everyone knew who I was. I got to travel.
Yeah, I hope that, like, I hope that you do make it to a big company. And I do hope, this, I hope the same for Alexander, because I feel like both of y'all are very talented, or at least, try to get that opportunity to AEW Dark, like, I think it'd be great. I think people will start noticing even more, because I feel like your wrestling star is growing, by month. You ended up on my news feed about a year ago, and
Mm-hmm.
before I followed you or any other of the Camacho. So, and I was just, a wrestling fan following different wrestlers that are in the indie scene, and you ended up on my feed. So it seems to be like you're doing, a good job on getting your name out there by showing
Yeah.
up to all these different places, and doing a good job everywhere you present yourself. So far, you know, you've had all these different matches the past 13 years. Do you have any favorites?
When I wrestled Rhino, probably one of my favorite. Actually, so there's a couple. When I wrestled Rhino, that was one of my favorites. When I got to wrestle Crime Time, before Chad died, or yeah, so I got to wrestle him and JTG, so that was a good one. And one of my favorite ones is a recent one, by a name. The kid's name is Man Man. He's training at DFW All Pro right now here in Texas, and I got to see his debut match. And honestly, probably one of the best matches I've had with someone that new. You know, like he's still training. He hasn't graduated or nothing like that. But he was at the point where he got to have his first match, and that man, it was a bar show, but the crowd was loud. The match was good. Like the amount of support and love we got after the match, like it was ridiculous. Like everyone was like, "Bro, what? That match was fire! Best match of the night!" Like it was just, it looked like the way we wrestled. It looked like we had been wrestling together for a long time, and it was just his first match. So
Wow.
that's probably one of my best matches to date, other than Rhino and Crime Time.
And all of those are on YouTube, right? People can go check them out.
I want to say yes. The Rhino one, yes, is
I
the
just saw
Crime
that one
Time.
today, so I know that one's there for sure.
Yeah, Rhino, Crime Time, and the one with against Man Man. It might be if you look up DFW All Pro.
Okay.
It might be online, but I'm not too sure.
Okie dokie. Well, Angel, I appreciate you making the time to be here today, man. I'm excited about everything that we're going to be able to do here in Arkansas and hopefully outside of the state in the near future, you know. But for the meantime, here in Arkansas, here in Springdale and around, I think there's a lot of potential, you know,
Yeah,
for specifically for what you're doing, man. I think you have a very good look. I think by looking at like the reactions that you're getting from folks, you know, these little kids that are like upset and these grannies out in the crowds and stuff that they get riled up, you know, it just kind of seems like you're hitting the right way, you know, to hopefully
I've
more
I've
success.
I've had grown men want to come over to barricade and fight me because apparently I'm doing good. I was doing good at what I do, you know. So
Well, we appreciate you and thank you for making the time to be here today. And for those that don't know, you'll be here, I think next month again, right? You'll be here in
yep,
the
I'll
area.
be there next month. Emmy will be there, and also Zarek and Onyx will be there as well.
Yeah.
So
So
you'll have 4 of 5 members of UFC because my brother Ocho's currently hurt. He got hurt in one of his matches,
okay.
so he's
Okay.
he's
Well, for those that haven't gotten to see Angel live, you'll be able to see him live next month here in Springdale. So make sure you go to that Diamond State Wrestling show coming up at the Imperial Event Center. I forgot the date, so I'll have to post the date on the on our site, on our Instagram and Twitter and everything to let people know. And get your tickets early so you can get those
yeah.
front seats. So you can yell at Angel when he comes out and me, I guess.
It's
Uh,
February 19th.
February 19th. Okay, at the
Yep.
Imperial Event Center. Get your tickets early. We'll post the links everywhere so you can get your tickets. Once again, Angel, I appreciate you for making the time, man. And I hope you have a good time in your match tonight.
I appreciate it, man. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the talk, guys.
Thanks
Sounds
for
good.
coming.
Well,
No problem at all. Thank you for having me.
everybody listening, thank you all for listening. That was episode 7 of the Natural State of Wrestling podcast with the Puerto Rican Juggernaut, Angel Camacho. We'll catch you all next week.